Hi everybody, tritone substitutions, part 2. So I want to give you 3 different options and ways that I would use some tritone substitutions in the blues. I want to give you a practical application, and Barb Kaufman actually asked about putting it in the blues. So great thinking, and it's a great idea. So here you go, but I'm only going to use the first 5 bars of the blues. In the next installment, I'll talk more about the rest of the blues and other tritone sub implications and applications. But here you go. This will be the first 5 bars of the blues, and I'm going to do it kind of slow. So you got the 1 chord, I'm doing it in C, 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 1 chord, and then 2-5 to 4. So the 2-5 would be G minor 7, C7. There's no tritone sub here. These would just be the normal, probably the standard changes. So here you go. I'm going to do it slow. I'll play a little solo over these first 5 bars. Very diatonic, really no note outside the key, especially here. I went very diatonic on this pattern. Something like that. So now, my first option for the tritone sub, and probably the most popular when you're doing the blues, would be right here in measure 4. But I'm not going to start there. I'm actually going to do one that might be a little less obvious, but is going to go along with the video, the first video I made. I'm actually going to tritone sub this, C7. So what is a tritone sub away? What's a tritone away from C? G flat, exactly right. So if you haven't watched the first video, that first video, I make a really important point about making sure you know the pairs, the tritone pairs. So any given note always has another note that's a tritone away, and there are 6 pairs. Okay, so C always is paired with G flat. So I'm actually going to put G flat here, and I'm going to do G flat here. Now remember what the point of tritone substitution really is. The point of it is really to increase chromaticism and root movement. So now instead of going 2-5-1, I'm now just going to be going a half step above to the F7. So what I'm going to do as I play a solo here, and I wanted to start here because this all applies, or it goes back to references the first video I made. If you know the triad pairs, here, this is a really nice sound to use over these 2 bars. So this is the first way I would possibly use a tritone substitution. I'm going to do a pattern that's going to alternate between a G flat triad and a C triad, and I'm going to do that for 2 bars. So check out how that sounds. Pretty hip sounding. I mean, really hip sounding. Now, what I did was I alternated between the 2, and I did some different patterns. I put it in triplets. My recommendation to you is maybe you get a pattern that you really like, and that's the one that you stick here, and you play that pattern specifically. So let me do a pattern. I'm just going to go up. Like that. I'm alternating between the 2, C and G flat, but I'm going to use the G flat as the second triad. I'll start on a C triad in root position, and then I'm just going to go up and do the inversions of each one, alternating. So let me start here. Mistake there, but you get the idea. So I would practice that a whole bunch of times with that exact pattern. And then after I feel really comfortable with it, and most importantly, it's in my ear, now I can start to manipulate that. So here we go. One more time, I'm going to manipulate that pattern. Now I'm playing something different, but still alternating between those 2 triads, pretty much. I resolved here. So this sound is a great way to use the tritone and use it over 2 measures. Okay, so that's number 1. That would be the first way I would try it. Something's wrong with my board, so I got to use the spray here. Anyway, the second application is the one that I mentioned earlier, which is the most obvious, that I'm going to tritone sub out G minor 7 and C to C7. So knowing the tritone pairs, what's a tritone away from G? Correct, D flat minor. What's a tritone away from C? Well, we already figured it out, C7. So this will be, sorry, the tritone away from C7 is G flat 7. It's a weird looking G. Okay, so G flat 7. And again, half step above to here. So I'm increasing the chromaticism. Now, how do I work that in? Well, the way that I do it is I have a lot of 2/5 licks, a lot of language over 2/5s. So I would pick a very specific 2/5 lick that I know or language, and I would play it first in the original without the tritone sub, and then I would do the exact same lick over the tritone sub. So here's the lick that I'm gonna do. Let me think about it. Okay. Very standard lick. Now the tritone away. Now all I need to do is figure out how to resolve it down to a chord tone here, or just somehow. So that's what I'm gonna do. First time I'm gonna play this with that lick in the standard 2/5, and then I'll play it again and use a tritone sub, but that exact same lick, just a tritone away. So here you go, 1, 2, 3, and. I put a flat 9 on that C7, which works perfectly, but I just fumbled in doing it. Okay, so now let me do the same thing, but with the D flat. 2, 3, and. So now I'm using that language, that exact same lick, the exact same language, and I'm just forcing it in here and then resolving it. Okay, now that way, I get that language in my ear. I actually start to hear the tritone sub in that 4th bar. So eventually, I'm gonna be able to now manipulate this and change it around, so I still have the language, or I still have the sound of this, but it might be different language that's actually mine. So let me see if I can do that. Here we go. Start here. 2, 3, and. Okay, so that was more of me, right? I'm thinking triplets. I'm thinking about what this is. I'm hearing it in my mind, but I'm just rearranging notes. It ends up being my language, okay? Because I've learned the standard language. I've learned bebop language, at least a few licks that I can put in there, and then I can rearrange the words. So the essence of what I'm saying is gonna be the same thing, but I'm saying it in my vernacular, not in the standard lick, so to speak. Okay, so that's the second way that I would do this. Now, the third way, so just a reminder, first way, I do the tritone sub from this, so G flat over both, and I was using triads. The second way was just subbing out bar 4. The fourth way is very similar to this, but what I'm gonna do, after I spray my board, again, okay. So the fourth thing that I'm gonna do would just be do that same tritone sub, but now I'm gonna extend it and make it 2 measures. So instead of just jamming it into 1 measure, I'm actually gonna sub out these 2 measures here and make it a longer one. Now, when you do this, this kind of pushes you towards a double time kind of deal because you've got a longer amount of time to work this 2/5 in. So here we go. Let me try it. Ready? Let me try it again. So there you go. They would be my 3 ways. Now, what I want to talk about on the third video is going to be a really big idea. But I'll tease this a little bit. A compelling why. We really need to know why we want to do this and why it's important. So I'll talk about that on the last video or maybe the next one. I don't know how many more of these I'm going to do. But the next one is definitely going to be an extension in the blues. We're going to go through the whole blues. And I want to give you a couple of other ideas to think about on the tritone that maybe you've thought about, maybe you haven't, but it's going to be more harmony-based than just lick-based. All right, hope this helps.